Hello, it's Jay Bo here, Living with Strength and Honor. You can find me as usual at livingwithstrengthandhonor.com. And today I want to talk about the learn, live, lead paradigm. See, inside of the challenge by choice is simply a sequence of things to understand how you operate. Inside challenge by choice, there's recognition of a problem, studying your reaction to that problem, what the reality of it actually is, what the facts are, and where your focus truly is, what your typical response or your actions are to that, and then what results you're creating behind that idea. And looking at that and deciding, how can I reframe, repurpose, change all of that? How can I change the way that I react, the reality of my focus, my response, and my results? Now, that's really just the beginning, is to break that idea down. I mean, that's just the very beginning concept. When you consider learn, live, lead, what you're considering is how to take something from a conceptual, an idea, to actually doing something about it and then integrating it into your life. So this is going to be a 4-part series. This is just the introduction. Then there'll be an individual podcast on learn, individual podcast on live, and an individual podcast on lead. Now, overall, this is how it works. At the learn level, we're talking about the intellectual level, the thinking level, right? This is where we are introduced to a new idea, or we think of a new idea, or we have the idea of changing something like, man, I need to do blank, or I'd like to stop doing blank. It's where we're first thinking about it. Stephen Covey years ago called that the first creation, the mental creation. There's a whole science behind the idea of this intellectual level of change. It's a critical level. It's not to be forgotten about, but it's also such that many people, they'll do this thing where I can pray it into existence, or I'm going to speak it into existence. And let's be honest, that that's not true. That doesn't work, right? I mean, come on. It's necessary to understand this first step of learn, this intellectual level, this thinking level. I mean, this is the level at which we begin to retrain the brain, and we put the neuroplasticity of the brain to work for us, which is something I'll get into in the next podcast about learn. So it's an important level, but far too many people get stuck at this level, get stuck in the thinking phase, the planning phase, the getting ready to get ready phase. I mean, how many times have you sat down and told yourself, determined, I'm going to start exercising, and never really get around to it? I'm going to quit drinking, and then as soon as Friday comes up, boom, out the window. I'm going to start this. I'm going to start that, right? So that's at the intellectual level. And far too many people quit at that level. That's as far as they get. Because things come up. Fears, problems, issues, the typical obstacles and roadblocks, your current patterns and habits, all of these things collide with this first creation, this idea, the intellectual level, and sometimes will derail our plans. Now, if you can make it out of that level, you can develop a new skill and get into the live level. Now, the live level is the doing level, the practice level. This is the level at which we actually take action, right? It's the action level. This is where we can begin to form habits through repetition of action. The live level is where we begin to develop new patterns and new behaviors. It's right. It's where we actually do something. So this is like you had the thought about doing it, And I'll be damned, you're doing it. Well done. A lot of people make that leap. Consider how many times you've started working out again and then stop, or you start to change your diet, the way that the things you put in your body, and then you stop. That's at this level. That's at the live level. It's the doing level. It's the action level. Now, this is the most common quitting place. And it's because old habits die hard. Old patterns die hard. Now, I'll get into why that happens whenever we get to the third in this series, the third podcast in this series, to talk about how our brain works. That, like, it just integrates this pattern that we have associated with everything, in the way that we sort of have these ruts. That's like a real thing. And how it's really difficult that you can change for a small amount of time. Like, everybody can change in the short term, right? And we have all had that experience. I had someone say the other day, I thought was really great, that so many people have lost the same 20 pounds 20 times. Maybe you've had that experience. This is at the level where you are acting. You are like I'm this person doing this thing and creating repetitions. Now, as you continue, and if you can get past the hurdles and the roadblocks and the obstacles, and your brain conspiring against you and your ego, and then the couple of external forces that show up to sort of derail you, you can really begin to create a habit, something that you do habitually, rather than as a new thing that you're doing. And as you're doing that, as you continue to prove to yourself that you can and that you will, you develop a habit and you begin to dip your toe into the third level, which is the lead level, or the being level, where it's autonomous. This is the level beyond even habit, where you just are. Probably many of you can relate to this in terms of being a parent. You know, when you were younger and you first became a parent, you didn't know what the fuck you were doing, because nobody does, right? You were mimicking the things that you had seen before, or maybe you read a book. But mostly you were just mimicking the actions that you had seen your parents and grandparents, cousins, uncles, friends, whatever, how they did it with their children. And you kind of do it the same way, or maybe even the way that it was done, you knew wasn't right, and you're trying to do it differently and whatever, right? But you're still acting like a parent. Now, at some point, that shifts and changes. I've had children since I was 21 years old. And I'm be 55 in a couple of weeks. I've had children for 35 years and always had smaller children. I've got a 9-year-old now, right? I'm no longer acting like a parent. I just am one. Like, most of what I do as a parent comes pretty naturally. It's the way that I'm wired. It's who I am now. I'm just being. I'm not acting like, I'm not mimicking, I'm not following someone else's plan. I'm not trying to learn how. I just am. It's ingrained in me. It's integrated as a part of who I am. That's the lead level. Now, there are a lot of things in your life that you're just being. You've been doing them for so long that it's not like a decision thing. It's not like you even have to decide to. It's who you are. Some of those things you do are tremendous and they serve you. There are things about you that make you wonderful, unique, and amazing. There are other things that you do that don't serve you, and they're deeply integrated into who you are. And that's why it's so hard to make permanent, long-lasting shifts and changes. That's the paradigm. Learn, live, lead. Going from the mental creation, the thinking level, the intellectual level, developing a particular skill and getting into the live level, where this is the doing level, the action level, where you're practicing, and proving to yourself that you're capable and can and willing. If you can do this long enough, you will begin to develop habits, new patterns, new behaviors, new ways of doing things, and start to become habitual for you. And if you can stay in that long enough, you will slowly make the transition from living this thing to leading this thing to actually being, to it being rather autonomous. That you don't really have to, you don't think about every morning, I wonder if brushing my teeth's a good idea. I've heard that brushing your teeth is good and helps preserve your gums and your teeth and kind of makes your breath not stink as bad. You don't go through that every day. That's the learn level. It's the intellectual level. In fact, you don't even think about it. You just go and you just brush your teeth, right? Now, do you actually have to go through the process of thinking, all right, don't forget now, you promised yourself you were going to brush your teeth every day. Get in there and brush them. Duh, come on. No, you don't go through that. That's the live level. That's the, forming a habit level, changing patterns and behavior level. With brushing your teeth, you're at the lead level. You don't even think about it. It's non-negotiable. You don't consider it. You don't bump up against you know what? Oh, I hate brushing my teeth so much. I don't feel like doing it. You don't do that. You just go and do it. It's a part of who you are that you brush your teeth every day. That's not a human thing. There are humans on the planet that don't brush your teeth every day. But you do. Without ever even thinking about it, without considering it as an option. That's the lead level. You can make anything move from the learn to the live to the lead. Anything you choose. It's possible. But you have to follow certain steps. You have to move through this paradigm. You have to move down this sequence and understand how to get there. It doesn't just happen. You can't just determine to do it. It's deeper than that. But understanding how it works gives you an edge, gives you an opportunity, the possibility of making it happen. So I hope that makes sense to you. Learn, live, lead. It's how you get to where you're thinking about doing something, where it's just integrated as part of who you are. The next 3 episodes, I'm going to talk specifically about learn and focus on that. The next one, focus on live and what happens in that space. And that one especially, because that's where the real meat is. That's where most of us quit. And then talk about the lead level and talk about being in that space. I hope this helps you out in some kind of way today. I hope you stay tuned for the next 3 episodes, because they're going to be important to learn about this learn, live, lead paradigm and how it works for us. I hope we get to connect in the near future. But until then, have an amazing day, and strength and honor to you.